Hello and welcome to Coastal Wide Productions. We are in our remote studio at the 2024 Florida Floodplain Managers Association conference. And we are doing our new podcast. It's called Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters. And I want to introduce you to the host of Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters, Denise Boning.
Well, thank you, Steve, for the introduction, and welcome again. We have another episode here at the Florida Floodplain Managers Association conference in this beautiful, beautiful resort in Sandestin, Florida. And I have to say, I'm just going to throw that in there. This morning, I woke up and I opened up the curtains and I looked at the beautiful Gulf, not ocean, the big lake. The Gulf, and it was just so serene. It was beautiful. We saw a pod of dolphins, it's a school of fish, a pod of dolphins. It was lovely. It was really nice. So anyway, today I have a special guest, Eddie Bouza, and tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from.
Okay. Hi. So my name is Eddie Bouza. I've heard Bouza and Bouza and Bowser and Bozo, and kindergarten was fun. So
I can imagine. We're bones.
It is a beautiful place here. I actually woke up to the Gulf view, which for me triggers a little Pavlovian response. I wanted to get out there on the fairway, but glad to be here. I've been involved with FFMA close to about 10 years now, I would say. My sort of first interaction was the L273 class offered by FFMA instructors in partnership with FEMA in Monroe County. For the broader audience, Monroe County is where the Florida Keys are located, so that was also a beautiful place to be. But we went through that course sort of in a real sort of intensive training for floodplain management. It's not necessarily designed to prepare you for the exam, but I did take the exam shortly after to get my certification, and I've held my certification since.
Oh, nice.
I was given that opportunity by a former employer, a large Southwest Florida county.
Oh, okay.
I was a zoning planner and sat sort of in the trenches in the front desk and got a lot of questions off the street from builders and homeowners, and would review surveys for elevation to ensure that new construction and any sort of alterations or additions would meet the NFIP requirements for the county.
Yeah. So that's a lot of work. Yeah, I know. I'm sure those reviewing those elevation certificates, having done that myself, is at times quite a nightmare, especially when you have to talk to the surveyors and tell them, hey, listen, you marked this off and you marked this off. This is not quite right. Mm-hmm. Can you please fix it? And they're like, well, I'm a surveyor. Who are you?
And getting involved with FFMA gave me access to the education curriculum. And one of my first courses was the elevation certificate class offered. That was actually hosted at the county, and we had our floodplain managers involved. And it really, being involved with FFMA unlocked so many opportunities for training. You sort of have to have the continuing education to keep the certification, but those are opportunities to learn, to travel in some cases, which was nice. Your employer, you want to keep the certification for your employer. Oh, I got to go to Fernandina Beach, a beautiful place in Northeast Florida, and get elevation certificate training.
Oh, what a shame. That's awesome.
And I spent many years there. Later moved to Tallahassee, which is where I'm now located.
Okay.
And spent a few years up in the NFIP state coordinating office, working at the state level, helping with local government floodplain administrators, and have since sort of moved into a different space. But the impetus for moving was not only a personal opportunity for me, but a way to kind of bridge another agency and getting involved with FFMA. I work at the Department of Environmental Protection now, which wasn't really looped into FFMA. So I at least sort of brought the concept there, was able to get approval for corporate membership to have a couple of members get more involved, and brought in actually 2 new CFMs from our agency.
Oh, that's great.
And hopefully can continue to at least have that as an education opportunity for professional development for our team and our folks to say this is something we want to try to do every year and give somebody else those opportunities to take advantage of FFMA.
Oh, that's great.
Hi, my name is Steve Boning, President of Coastal Waterways. For over 15 years, our firm has provided engineering, floodplain management, and resiliency services within a coastal and marine environment. Our services include natural and hardened shoreline stabilization and restoration, dredging and marine structure engineering and permitting, community vulnerability assessments, and GIS analysis and numerical modeling. We are proud to sponsor Flood, Facts, Myths, and Monsters. Now let's get back to the show.
Now, what exactly do you do at the DEP?
Well, I work in a grant program. It's called the Resilient Florida Program, and we do grants to local governments to help them prepare for the threats of flooding and sea level rise in light of all the intensification of storms and frequency of storms. And it was a great opportunity for me understanding what those projects can do and how they can help and what rules might be in place, understanding the building code, understanding the requirements, and anything from 44 CFR to ASCE 24. These are things that from a technical perspective the agency had never really engaged in this sector. The agency does have a sector that includes coastal construction, seaward of like a control line, basically. But whereas a lot of those requirements are very similar to the NFIP requirements, they're applied a little bit differently. And so being able to come over and add to that expertise and commentary was a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, so you're actually a very important person to know from the community side. If you want to know anything about grant funding and, if there's any money still available and such, you are the person that, or your department is the person that we need to talk to.
Sure. No pressure.
No pressure, right?
I don't represent the entire agency
No,
today,
of course not,
but there are a lot of programs out there at the state level. Grant programs are going to generally operate similarly, and our program itself is one of many that's offered at the agency. Anything from water quality to stormwater to flooding and sea level rise. There's a lot of programs out there. Converting from septic to sewer.
Oh yeah, that's a big one in my county. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the grants are a way that governments can work together to make lives better for the people in their state or their city or county.
No, that's awesome. So having been to a conference annually for the last 10 years, is there any particular conference or anything that comes to mind that sticks out as the most memorable or most funniest?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't been to that many conferences, but having been to several, some of the things that kind of stick out with me are meeting the people and hearing the history. There's a lot of, as you engage with committees and the board, you'll hear some jokes and things, and you don't necessarily always get what they mean. But when you're at conference and you're sitting around a table or you're having a meal or eating lunch and you're kind of sharing memories, you kind of get in on the inside jokes. And it's really great to hear. And one thing that's particularly interesting, I was able to attend the national conference in Orlando when it was held in Florida. So the ASFPM conference, and being able to engage with the nationwide audience was something that I never had the opportunity to do before. And to just hear the stories about how the association began and how some of the players that were involved were still around or honored or talked about, and really getting to hear those stories, which maybe it wasn't around the lunch table. At that time it might have been the pool in the evening, but to hear just some of the history and some of the fun things that have happened through the association was really cool. One of my mentors, the former state NFIP coordinator, used to share stories and had me read a book, about Gilbert White. And it was like, when I first started, he was like, read this, and it's funny because they were actually going to conference, and I was too new to go. Yeah. So I was at the office by myself. The whole office had gone to the conference. And he said, read this. I want you to read this book. This is really important, especially this chapter. And so I got to learn about Gilbert White and the history behind it and all the great quotes. Yeah. Another great book, The Swamp. I think it's Michael Clayton, if I may have to edit that out if that's not right. Or Michael Greenwald, maybe, I think it is. But it's a really great book about the history of Florida and the Everglades. And I got to read those on work time because they were so important to him.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And for me to understand, the history behind everything and how there have been different approaches throughout time to try to reduce losses. So those were really great memories for me, and I try to carry that today, too, to some of my team and give them those opportunities as well.
That's great. I love that. I love hearing that. And I'll double-check on the books, and then I'll have them linked below for in case somebody else wants to read them, or should read them, probably.
Gilbert White, that great quote, actually opened our conference here this week, where floods are an act of God, but flooding is an act of man.
That's true. Very true. I like that. So, when we're going to make an FFMA Hollywood movie?
Oh, wow.
What actor should we hire to play you?
Well, I guess I don't really have a unique look. The bald-headed, bearded guy with glasses is a dime a dozen, I suppose. So I'm sure you could find someone with their portfolios. I guess maybe try to make sure they have good dimples, maybe.
I like that. All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And this was another episode of the Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters. And we'll see you soon at the next episode, and subscribe below.